We now come to these three key events. We're going to work our way through these in order. We have first the Exodus event. We're on page 53 of the Panorama workbook here. And what we see is this. After the Passover, the death of the firstborn, it says they go to Pharaoh at night. And what we see is Pharaoh tells them, Pharaoh lets the people go. And God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Yam Suf is the actual Hebrew words that's getting translated for us as Red Sea. Now, I found this part to be helpful to see visually. So the people of Israel are up here. It's in this area of Egypt called Goshen. This is where they find themselves. And they are working their way out of Goshen through, this is kind of a swampy area at the north part of the Red Sea called the Yam Suf. And they get out of Goshen towards the Yam Suf, but the Egyptian leader changes his mind. Look at chapter 14, verse 5. It says, when the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the mind of Pharaoh and his servants was changed towards the people, and they said, what is this we have done, that we have let Israel go from serving us? Let's go get them. So now we have a face-off. The people of Israel have fled out to the Yam Suf, and now coming right behind them is the Egyptian army. And what we see is at the border of the Yam Suf, which, by the way, the Yam Suf just means sea of reeds. That's what it means. And so it's a series of like swampy lakes kind of up in here. And you can Google it and look at the Yam Suf, and so you can see what it will actually look like. They find themselves on the edge of this swampland with the Egyptian army on their heels and an impassable swampy area of lakes in front of them. And look at what they do. They're terrified. And look, God says to Moses, the Lord will fight for you. That's the name of God after all, Israel. The Lord will fight for you. You only have to be silent. Look at verse 17. They will go in after them, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his hosts, his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh, and everyone around will know that I am Yahweh. Look at what we see. Verse 21. Moses stretched out his hand, and supernaturally, miraculously, God will deliver them through the waters into salvation. He stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. Most of us have seen the movies, Prince of Egypt, 10 Commandments, or the new one with Christian Bale. This is the moment where now the waters part. And what we see is Israel saw, on page 54, Exodus 14:31, Israel saw the great power that Yahweh used against the Egyptians. The people feared the Lord and they trusted him. They believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. What we're going to see is they supernaturally find themselves fleeing or leaving the Exodus from Egypt. Amazing deliverance of God. This story of the Exodus is going to be what they look back on as their moment of salvation, when God brought them out of death, brought them out of slavery and into life by nothing but his sheer grace and mercy. He did not rescue them because they were a better people. He did not rescue them because they were a holier people. On sheer grace and mercy and faithfulness to his promise, God rescues the people of Israel out of slavery through the waters and into freedom. And this will be what the New Testament authors will frequently refer back to and have in their mind as they talk about what takes place with Jesus. So our first key event of the redemption story, our first big triangle event, is called the Exodus. It's the people leaving Egypt.